All right, so the offense for once puts together a good game. By far, our best offensive game so far. And probably our best offensive game in. Honestly, I mean, this might have actually been our best offensive game, even dating back to every game we had last season. And maybe even some games throughout 2021. Now, I'm not going to come on here and act like we turned our season around or anything like that. I'm not going to act like we're the Chiefs or the Dolphins, but this was definitely a step in the right direction. Kenny Pickett, for the first time in his career, has a game where he throws for at least 2 touchdowns in a game. And now, I will say, he did get lucky that Marcus Peters didn't catch what looked like an easy pick six, because it was a god-awful throw that went right in his hands, only for him to somehow drop it. But other than that, Pickett played a very solid game. Like I said, this was easily the best game that he's had so far in his young career. And now, of course, Matt Canada, who we were all booing on Monday Night Football, chanting for him to get fired, he actually called a pretty good game. I know that may sound crazy as fuck, and it may sound like hell is freezing over when we say that, but that's what happened. Like, Matt Canada got creative for once. He called good offensive plays for once in 37 games, something like that, as our offensive coordinator. Now, obviously, that doesn't change, how I feel about him. Even though I don't single-handedly blame him like most people in my fan base do. But, yeah, this was the best I've seen the Steelers play offensively in quite a while. Even though we did get complacent and start, taking our foot off the gas towards the end when we were up 23-7. But there were definitely some things that went right for us in this game. The offense, obviously, as I've been talking about so far. And then, of course, the defense, they got after Jimmy Garoppolo. But there are two of our corners that need to be ranted about a little bit. Even though TJ Watt and our pass rush got to Jimmy Garoppolo like 4 times and they forced him to make some bad throws. But yeah, I am, however, not going to let the fact that Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson got a combined 3 interceptions in this game fool me. Because Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers were burning us. They were burning us whenever we had those 2 corners on them throughout the game. And this goes back to what I said last week in our win over the Browns. Joey Porter Jr. is not only our best corner, but he has to be out there starting more often. Because Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace looked like a bunch of idiots out there. They looked like clowns. I mean, Davante Adams had 170 or 80 something yards of receiving, and I think Jacoby Myers came close to 100 himself. But yeah, do not let the fact that Levi Wallace got 2 interceptions fool you, and don't let the fact that he also threw an interception to Patrick Peterson fool you, because they were at the end of the day, those interceptions weren't because Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace made good plays on the ball. It's because Jimmy Garoppolo, the throws that he made were just that shitty. Jimmy Garoppolo gifted us 3 interceptions, and we won this game partially because of him. I even said this, to myself and of course on other Steelers channels, is that if there is one reason, because despite the fact that we don't have a good history playing on the West Coast, especially against the Raiders, I even said this. If there is any reason for us to be optimistic as to why we can actually win this game, it is because of their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. He is so prone to costing his team the game. He did it with the 49ers, in Super Bowl 54, regardless of how shitty the officiating was. But still, Jimmy Garoppolo is known for costing his team the game. And this was yet another example of that. Now, that's why the Raiders lost. The reason why we won was because we played like a complete team for just about 3 quarters, though we did get complacent in the 4th quarter, took our foot off the gas, but we hung on. And now, let's get to that bullshit roughing the passer call that Minkah Fitzpatrick got called on. Because the referee said that he led with the helmet, when anybody who saw the replay knows that he clearly didn't even, not only did he not, hit Jimmy Garoppolo helmet to helmet, he didn't even bother to lead with the helmet. So that was a bullshit call on the ref's part. And the Raiders, they got a touchdown that they shouldn't have gotten because of that bullshit penalty. I'm telling you, don't let the final score of this game fool you. This was not a close game. The game had the game had no business being as close as the score shows. That roughing the passer call was bullshit out the ass. It was. Because anybody who saw that replay knows that it was clearly a clean tackle and clean sack by Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then of course the 2-point conversion that they got on it, which the first attempt was incomplete, but then they throw a flag for DPI when there was clearly none of it to begin with. So the real final score of this game is Steelers 23, Raiders 10, refs 8. That's the real final score of this football game. That's the real final score. But whoop-de-doo, Kenny Pickett improves to 5-1 in primetime games. Dating back to, last year. He had he lost his first primetime game to the Dolphins, but not only has he not lost a primetime game ever since, but he has 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions in those primetime games that he's won combined. For all the little trolls out there who love to constantly bring up how Pickett has had more interceptions than touchdowns and all this shit. And now look, I know I've been very frustrated with Pickett throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, but for this game, and at least for a week or two, he was able to avoid my bust label. Because I was about to put it on him if he didn't perform good in this game. And guess what? Right when I say that, Pickett plays well. He played the best game, as I even said earlier in the video. This was his best game yet. He didn't do anything too crazy, though he did have that big touchdown pass to Calvin Austin, who burned the Raiders secondary in response to the Raiders getting that touchdown on the 4th and inches to Devontae Adams. With, Dumb and Dumber, Levi and Pat Pete in coverage. But yeah, so we're 2-1. I'll take this win for sure. It wasn't really that ugly of a win. There was definitely more positive than negative. As we also, I believe, take the tiebreaker for first place in the AFC North. But of course, like I said, I'm not going to come on here and act like we fixed everything. Because we still have flaws. Don't get that mistaken. We still have flaws. The Browns, they held the Titans to 3 points just like they did the Bengals. So the Browns have a pretty damn good defense, and Deshaun Watson seems to be getting rhythm. The Ravens, they had a pretty bad loss to the Colts, and I do think they got robbed on the missed DPI on the Colts defender that tackled Zay Flowers, I think. And then, of course, the Bengals, they're not going to be in their slump forever. They're going to get out of it pretty soon. So, yeah, I mean, so we improved to 2-1, on to Houston. And that's pretty much all I got to say for this one. I'm out.